Prior to Mr. Thurman, our superintendent, I would like to call Mr. Rocco Tessini, our school board attorney, to provide us with an overview of school policy IBB.
Good evening, board members, Mr. Thurman. In connection with tonight's meeting, I wanted to let the board know about the provisions of Georgia law that relate to a consideration of a petition for a conversion cluster school, and also emphasize for you the board policy that you have with respect to that. Georgia Code 20-2-2064D provides that a local board shall approve a petition that complies with the rules, regulations, policies, and procedures promulgated in accordance with Code Section 20-2-2063 and the provisions of this title, and is in the public interest. With respect to the latter phrase, is in the public interest, the board has adopted a policy, IBB, which provides that in order to be considered in the public interest by the DeKalb County Board of Education, a charter petition or any request for a charter renewal must, at a minimum, demonstrate that the curriculum, instruction, and accountability programs set forth in the petition combine to create an innovative, unique opportunity for student learning which does not duplicate existing DeKalb programs or exist in any DeKalb County schools. Further, the proposed charter schools must demonstrate it will increase student achievement through academic and organizational innovation in accordance with OCGA 20-2-2065A. The petition must also show how the intended location of the school is in the public interest of the community. In addition, the charter petitioner must demonstrate ability, financial resources, expertise, and other resources necessary to manage successfully in all aspects of a charter school. So I just draw to your attention the legal statute in the Georgia Code as well as your own policy on the issue.
Thank you, Rocco. At this time, I present our superintendent of schools.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight, the administration will proceed to present to you, after many hours, days, and months of evaluation and analysis, our recommendation regarding the proposed Druid Hills Conversion Charter Cluster petition. We come tonight recognizing that the DeKalb School District has a rich history of supporting innovative and successful charter schools. We currently have 9 startup charters and a total of 14. We will have a 15th startup charter as soon as Tapestry is approved by the Georgia Department of Education. I want to make it clear that this administration and this superintendent supports public charter schools. We recognize that they play an important role. We have a long and positive relationship with the charters that exist today, and we have and we will continue to support all charters that are in the public interest. This evening, the staff will present information regarding our thorough and transparent review of the charter cluster petition. And now, Mr. Chair, I would like to present the gentleman who has led this effort, who will introduce the presenters and the presentation, Dr. Jose Boza, Jr.
Good evening. Dr. Johnson, Board Chair, members of the Board, and Mr. Thurmond. This evening, members of the board will be asked to render a decision on the Druid Hills Conversion Charter Cluster petition. This conversion charter cluster proposes to implement a high school cluster for 5 years to develop college and career-ready students by providing continuous learning pathways for students from kindergarten through 12th grade. The conversion charter cluster asserts that it will implement a school choice program of learning pathways such as International Baccalaureate, Montessori, Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math, commonly known as STEAM, and advanced placement choices to parents and educators among 7 schools currently operated by the district. Although the petitioner has submitted documents for a conversion charter cluster, the contents of the petition revealed multiple startup components. These include, but are not limited to, an autonomous governing board that shall govern all decisions related to instruction, human resources, finances, and operations for the cluster. The selection of the cluster's own transportation and school nutrition providers. Full autonomy over finance, including budgets, financial policies and procedures, and compliance with federal, state, and local financial reporting requirements. And finally, complete autonomy in all employment and human resources matters, as the employer of record, which the petitioner stated is one of its main tenets. Following my comments, the Board of Education will be presented with detailed information related to financial impact, academics, and organizational structure and accountability, which will assist the board members in making a decision that is in the public interest. According to Board Policy of Education IBB, which Mr. Testani just read, the board has defined public interest as a 4-pronged test. In order to be considered to be in the public interest, a charter petition, at a minimum, must first demonstrate that the proposed programs set forth in the charter petition do not duplicate existing DeKalb programs or exist in any DeKalb County schools. Second, it must demonstrate it will increase student achievement through academic and organizational innovation. Third, it must demonstrate that the location of the schools are in the public interest of the community. And fourth, it must also demonstrate ability, financial resources, expertise, and other resources necessary to successfully manage all aspects of a charter school. Now I am going to ask Dr. Bell to share information regarding financial impact. He will be followed by Dr. Morses Beasley with information on academics, and Dr. Linda Fraser will follow with information related to organizational structure and accountability.
I have a 401k retirement plan.
I started part-time. Now I'm a manager.
My employer matches my charitable giving. Really?
I get bonuses even working part-time.
Where I work, over 400...
Francois, would you please distribute Exhibits 1 and 2? Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Johnson, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent. My comments this evening will address fiscal impact issues relative to the Druid Hills conversion charter cluster petition that's in front of the board this evening. Relative to the pending action on subject petition, consideration should be given to the present financial condition of the entire school district. The district has been and is under fiscal stress. Although the end of FY 2013 indicates improvement over the end of FY 2012, the district still has to file monthly a deficit elimination plan with the state and will have to do so for the immediate future. Approval of this conversion charter cluster petition could increase the district's annual charter school allocation by 180%, from about 22 million presently to as much as 62 million on an annual basis, depending upon ultimate funding determinations by the state and local levels. No other budgetary component has recently experienced such an increase. Relative to this conversion charter cluster petition, it is apparent that the petition is that of a conversion charter, but the financial funding parameters employed are those of a startup charter. Please see the attachments behind the summary of my remarks. Comparing the district's actual FY13 expenditures on a school-by-school basis for these 7 schools, the total amount expended was $29.358 million. This would be a concerning issue enough, but the total required revenue under this conversion charter for FY15 is indicated as being $40,392,000. That's again highlighted in your attachment. This indicates a difference of $11,034,000. Petitioning as a conversion charter, but requesting funding as a startup charter, cannot be overlooked relative to its future financial impacts on the school district. On this basis alone, I would say this petition is not in the public interest of the school district. As of the end of FY 2012, the completed financial audit indicates the district had an all-funds deficit of $14 million. In point of fact, Moody's Investor Service recently downgraded the district's long-term credit rating based on the FY 2012 results. Although, as of the end of FY 2013, the district's position had improved to a positive $10.8 million unaudited, the district still has a great deal to accomplish relative to stabilizing its financial position. As of the end of FY 2013, relative to the general operating budget only, there is a fund balance of $3.4 million. Improving the district's overall financial stability and management is one of SAC's required actions relative to receiving full accreditation. Just considering the general operating budget of $755.9 million, a basic fund balance would be $69 million. There is still a long way to go with no margin for error. The discrepancy between applying as a conversion charter and requesting funding as a startup charter induces too much financial uncertainty for the district to contend with at this time. A possible 180% increase in charter school funding, considering the district's tenuous financial status, would not be in the public interest at the present time, per board policy IBB. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Johnson, members of the board, Superintendent Thurman. I'm Dr. Beasley. Ms. Francois, if you would distribute the handout Exhibit 4.
At this time, I don't see a problem with giving you copies afterwards, but at this time, the presentation is being made to the board, but I don't see a problem with getting you copies later on. I personally don't.
Again, good evening. In accordance with board policy IBB, a charter petition or any request for a charter renewal must, at a minimum, demonstrate that the curriculum, instruction, and accountability programs set forth in the petition combine to create an innovative, unique opportunity for student learning which does not duplicate existing DeKalb programs or programs that exist currently in DeKalb schools. The staff evaluated the petition and compared what is being proposed to what is currently offered and implemented in the DeKalb County School District. After a thorough comparison of DeKalb's currently implemented academic and instructional offerings and that of those proposed by the petitioner, it was determined that the DeKalb County School District currently offers comparable instructional offerings and services as proposed by the petitioner. A few considerations are noted in the petition as follows. As it pertains to the curriculum, DeKalb created its own curriculum using the national and state standards adopted as Common Core Georgia Performance Standards and Georgia Performance Standards. The curriculum development process involved national experts, district leaders, content coordinators, and teachers. The proposed Druid Hills Conversion Charter Cluster did not provide a written curriculum and shared that they would use Common Core Georgia Performance Standards and Georgia Performance Standards and career pathways as defined by the Georgia Department of Education. As it pertains to the International Baccalaureate, also known as IB, DeKalb offers primary years program, middle years program, and diploma program. Druid Hills Conversion Charter Cluster proposes to continue the IB program and seeks to add middle years program for grades 9 and 10. The expansion of the IB program is within the purview of our school district, with current enhancements being considered. As it pertains to pre-K, DeKalb offers 103 pre-K classes funded by the Bright from the Start grant. Druid Hills Conversion Charter Cluster plans to offer pre-K under a separate agreement with DeKalb County School District. As it pertains to economically disadvantaged, underperforming, and marginal students, the petition does not specifically acknowledge that 4 out of 7 schools in the cluster are Title I, and does not acknowledge that 58% of the proposed charter enrollment is currently identified as economically disadvantaged. The petition offers no unique strategies to be used as a tool to engage the parents of these students in the decision-making and planning, which is often an acknowledged challenge in any school district that prioritizes to include all parents. The proposed Druid Hills Conversion Charter Cluster did not address, to any degree of specificity, how the needs of underperforming, economically disadvantaged students will be addressed beyond Early Intervention Program, known as EIP, Remedial Education Program, referred to as REP, and DeKalb's currently utilized Flexible Learning Program, known as FLP. According to Dr. Bard, State School Superintendent, a conversion charter school should be a strategy for turning around low-performing schools like the 33 existing conversion charters in the state. Beyond the current strategies utilized in DeKalb, the petitioner does not identify unique innovations or practices to address the needs of low-performing and/or economically disadvantaged students. However, it should be highlighted that the DeKalb County School District has implemented the Bridge Initiative, whereby the district is strategically aligning and utilizing funds to, 1, identify and support high-achieving, marginal, and underperforming students, 2, training district and school-level leaders and teachers to improve quality, and 3, engaging all parents. DeKalb has and is developing an innovative focus on engaging the parents of the most at-risk and or economically disadvantaged students in the learning process through meetings, workshops, conferences, mentoring, and the like. DeKalb is developing and providing varied opportunities for parents to share feedback and to participate in decision-making processes as the district develops budgets and reopens parent centers. The school district is addressing college and career readiness, graduation rates, supporting increased learning time, providing instructional resources, providing additional support for STEM, and supports instructional innovation for all 100,000 students enrolled in the DeKalb County School District. Additionally, DeKalb is engaging the community by extending community innovation grant opportunities to support schools, specifically the economically disadvantaged and or underperforming students. Furthermore, as it pertains to instructional innovation and uniqueness, the petitioner referenced the term, quote unquote, continue approximately 28 times when proposing services related to IB, Montessori, AP, gifted, extracurricular educational opportunities, special education, ESOL, supplemental educational service such as the Flexible Learning Plan, Remedial Education Program, and Early Intervention Program. For instance, when describing advanced placement, known as AP, the petitioner writes, and I quote, "This model is one in which significant training and resources have already been invested, and thus DHCC will continue to offer it." It is DeKalb's position that the petition does not offer significantly different educational opportunities beyond what is currently offered, implemented, or being reviewed for expansion or enhancement in the DeKalb County School District. Thank you.
While the next presenter is coming forward, I might remind the board and the audience that all exhibits, all the handouts are marked attorney-client privilege. Thank you.
I did. I need clarification as a point of order, because that comment that they're attorney-client privilege in a public hearing, I think, is incompatible under the law, and I'd like an opinion from our general counsel on that.
General counsel?
I'm seeing these documents for the first time myself. I think because of the importance of the privilege, we ought to confer at a break or during some break in the meeting to discuss this, to understand that legend. But I think the meeting ought to continue because there's valuable time here for the public and for the board.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Johnson, Board Chair, members of the Board, and Mr. Thurman. Ms. Francois, would you please distribute Exhibit 3, titled Organizational Structure and Accountability Comparison, for the board members to review as I present the information.
Go right ahead.
Who prepared this document?
The Charter Schools Office.
Okay, so the charter schools office, not the legal office, is that correct?
That's correct.
Attorney-client privilege.
And I'm saying I need more information about what this document is than your one question of this person, so I'd like to do that at a break.
Thank you. We will take a break after the presentations.
The organizational structure and accountability is essential in increasing student achievement through academic and organizational innovation, as well as fiscal responsibility by utilizing a broad flexibility waiver. Although DeKalb currently supports 9 startup charter schools, 5 conversion charter schools, and the district is waiting on the approval of its 10th startup charter by the State Board of Education, there are no other conversion charter clusters in the state of Georgia to offer a comparison for predicting the future success of what is being considered tonight. However, in nearby city schools of Decatur, we have a charter system that offers our district some insight into a comparable situation. Number of schools. In city schools of Decatur, there are 7 schools, 1 high school, 1 middle school, 1 4-5 academy, and 4 K-3 elementary schools. The proposed conversion cluster also has 7 schools, 1 high school, 1 middle school, and 5 K-5 elementary schools. Teachers. In city schools of Decatur, there are approximately 339 teachers, including pre-K, servicing 3,987 students. The proposed conversion cluster currently has 349 teachers, including pre-K, servicing 4,826 students. Title I funded schools. In city schools of Decatur, there are 2 out of 7 schools receiving Title I funds. The proposed conversion cluster currently has 4 out of 7 schools receiving Title I funds. Free and reduced federal program. In city schools of Decatur, approximately 22% of students participate in the free and reduced program. The proposed conversion cluster currently has 58% of its students participating in the free and reduced program. Annual revenues. City schools of Decatur budgeted $44 million in revenues for fiscal year 2014. The proposed conversion cluster is requesting approximately $40.4 million in revenues for fiscal year 2015. Centralized support staff. In city schools of Decatur, there are approximately 26.5 employees. This includes centralized support staff for administration, communications, facilities and maintenance, finance, human resources, instruction, nutrition and custodial, media and instructional technology, transportation, and exceptional student and pupil services. The proposed conversion cluster has identified 5 employees. This includes centralized support staff for administration, finance, office manager, ESOL, and special education. Based on this comparison, it would appear that the proposed centralized support staff may be insufficient to sustain the potential operational demands of the proposed Druid Hills Conversion Charter Cluster. Furthermore, although the petitioner has submitted documents for a conversion charter cluster, The contents of the petition revealed multiple startup components which may require additional centralized support staff. These include, but are not limited to, an autonomous governing board that shall govern all decisions related to instruction, human resources, finances, and operations for the cluster. The selection of the cluster's own transportation and school nutrition providers. Full autonomy over finance, including budgets, financial policies and procedures, and compliance with federal, state, and local financial reporting requirements. Complete autonomy in all employment and human resources matters as an employer of record, which the petitioner states is one of its main tenets. The information is being offered to the Board of Education to determine whether this petition, if approved, is in the public interest for the nearly 100,000 students who are currently being served by the DeKalb County School District. Thank you.
We will take a brief recess. Mr. Rocco will meet in the boardroom, small boardroom.